That is St. Louis, Missouri. Budweiser Stadium there, snow on the ground, pizza in the air, as Gina would say in St. Louis. I've never tried St. Louis pizza. I will try it, and then I will finally render my judgment that will be forever and ever. Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. All right, I'm David Brody. Today wraps up the third and final day of the new media orientation at the Pentagon. Earlier this fall, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced a major revamp of operating procedures for press covering the department, asking reporters to sign a new, more restrictive press policy and sparking a mass exodus of the old legacy lamestream media outlets from the building. Well, David Zere, the host of Breaking Point here on RAV, was at the Pentagon this week for the ramp up of the new media, taking their positions in the press room. And David now joins us from the Pentagon, where we understand, David, Pete Hegseth is planning to gaggle with reporters. In other words, just talk with reporters. We think there are cameras there. I'm curious to get your take on that, and to see Matt Gaetz in the briefing room yesterday. My goodness, what in the world's going on?
Good morning, David. It's an incredible time to be here at the Pentagon. You know, Republican congressmen coming out asking for more oversight and questions to be answered, like Tom Tillis in North Carolina, talking about the second strike and its legality. I wonder if he cares about the 3,000 people who overdosed in North Carolina last year. But I just wanted to say here that this is an incredible opportunity. Pete Hegseth coming in here at about 9:45 in one of the briefing rooms where we're at inside the Pentagon. And throughout the day, we've got interviews. I've got one with the Secretary of the Navy. We've got the press secretary. We've got Sean Parnell, the chief Pentagon spokesman, among others here. But the Daily Beast and other media outlets like the Washington Post and Vanity Fair are griping about the new media, I guess you could say, takeover in their minds of their desks. A lot of these reporters, to their credit, spent many years developing, as beat reporters in the Pentagon, right, and relationships. This is going to take a long time to develop these relationships, to have several desks inside the Pentagon and find their way around here. But I was really impressed yesterday in the press briefing by Kingsley Wilson with the new media crowd in here. And, TPUSA was present. We had RedState, Gateway Pundit, CDM News. And the questions were really good, and they were hard-hitting. They brought up our strikes in Somalia, where, going into the cave networks for al-Shabaab. They brought up other issues here. So, I think people are taking this seriously in the new pool of new media here at the Pentagon. And today I'll be a busy day here. So we're excited to be on the ground, and I'll be joined by Benny Harmony here in a little while. So we're going to get underway.
Yeah, this is a day when I think back to, as one of the 100 founding members of the Tea Party, when I think back to those days of citizen journalism out there, going town to town with Andrew Breitbart and Steve Bannon and Jim Hoft of Gateway Pundit and all those people. We could have never dreamed of a day like this. It is so fair that this has worked. It is so just that these people are there and do have a seat at the table. I don't think it needs to be to the exclusion of other media. But here's what I wanted to ask you. As I'm listening to this, I've never heard this said, and this may be a really dumb question, which you really shouldn't ask on television, but I'm just, I kind of call it like I see it, and I have since my Tea Party days. David, I want to ask you, is there a concern about spying? Because, and here's why I ask this, because it just seems like there's more to this story. I've not ever been in the Pentagon. I have no idea what it's like inside of there. And I think it is so right and awesome that these independent journalists, who are really Tea Partiers at heart, are in there and get to ask the questions. But it almost seems to me like, as I was hearing this described, the reasoning behind this, that it had something more to do with almost like, we don't really know who these people were all the time. They were hiring people. They were running around. I'm hearing this undercurrent, so I just wanted to ask the question straight up. Were they concerned about spies being hired by a hostile network coming in to the Pentagon, being in places that were sensitive from a security standpoint?
Well, I think you make a fair point, Dr. Gina. And just to your credit, you were on the ground floor with Andrew Breitbart when this new media, rose. And Bannon was the editor for Breitbart, and at the time of the Tea Party. So, but these new guidelines are common sense here. Before, as Sean Parnell said, wear your ID and your credentials throughout the Pentagon. Now you'll need to be escorted to and from the people you're going to visit, and so there was a free for all to a degree here, and there were probably leaks and Matt Gaetz brought up that question yesterday. What are they going to do in the Pentagon to address any leakers going forward? So I think you make a valid point. Hey, maybe this is.
I'm sorry, David. I'm sorry to interrupt, but as I'm looking at you there in the Pentagon, I'm curious, and I really want to kind of get a sense for what the vibe is there amongst the journalists who are with you. But even, I guess, bigger picture, since there are new rules in place, and you're one of many journalists who signed those rules, do you feel like there are more eyes on you? Do you feel like there's kind of this different vibe, and that you have to watch everything that you say, or is it kind of this openness and there's still this freedom to do your job unimpeded?
I haven't seen that at all. We have not experienced that all here. And there are about 60 new journalists who will be joining the new Pentagon, new media, press corps here. So, I didn't find that at all. And people were asking tough questions yesterday. And I was just talking to a gentleman in the room from another outlet who said, he's taking this very seriously. And we're here to report the news, without the bias, right? And that's what it's all about. And our audience deserves to hear the truth on the ground and what's going on.
Amen. No doubt about that. And we should also be clear that just because the liberal media is not in the room doesn't mean they're not doing some work behind the scenes and dealing with their deep state contacts. Look at the Washington Post
and they are.
Story about Hegseth.
And they are.
Yeah, 100%. So let's not just think that they're just kind of done and, just saying we're finished here. Yeah, of course. David Zere, great to have you.
And someone back in.
Yes, right. We'll check back with you later in the next hour. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, coming up, your health and the health of the president. Why his recent physical should have you thinking about your own health. Nice shot, Mr. President. We'll explain as American Sunrise continues.